All right, class. So we're gonna move on to the next part, which is next section, which is missing data. And so again, you have to click download, and then you have to upload it to your Colab. And so you would click upload notebook. Once you download it to your computer, upload your notebook, and then you will be able to see it. Then you will make changes there, and that's what you're gonna be able to submit. So follow along. So we saw in data frames that when we add a couple of series that do not match their rows, that not all row labels match, like the index column labels do not match, then you're gonna have, and you're trying to add a series, then you're gonna have a couple of missing datas. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna handle that part. We're gonna see what can we do when we have missing data. So this is part of the cleanup. Remember when we talked about the data science part of it, that collecting big data is like crude oil, right? And then but the crude oil doesn't do anything, right? We need to be as a data scientist, you need to be able to clean that oil, right? So that you can actually use it for, gasoline, tires, oil, whatever, car oil, other things that you might use the crude oil, right? So this is part of the cleaning, right? This is part of the data science where you clean up the data, right? So we're gonna learn techniques, tools that allows us to be able to clean data, to make sure that we don't have this. If we do have missing data, then we're able to fix it so we can actually implement our procedures for like finding the maximum values or standard deviations, means, modules, modes, and then be able to display your data in as a visualization, right? So we need to be able to clean the data practically. And so what we're gonna do first is we're gonna import our NumPy as MP. We're gonna import Pandas as PD, and then we're gonna click it to run. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a data frame, and we're gonna use the PD library and the data frame class to construct this object data frame. And so we're gonna start by having we're gonna create a dictionary, sort of like a dictionary, right? We're gonna have A as the key, and then our values would be a list of 1, 2, and then we're gonna use this MP and A, which means it is a non. Let's show you guys. It's a non-value, like a null value, and so that would be the first element. The second element would be B colon, and then we have 5 comma np dot na, and then np dot na. So we're putting some missing data. So we want to be able to learn how to handle when we actually have a data that is missing. So this, we're gonna create some examples, and then 1, 2, 3, and then we're gonna close our data, our dictionary. So we create a dictionary. We're gonna input that as our data frame, right? And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna check it out what we have created. And so, and we can see, oops, sorry, I gotta run it. And now you can see that we have A, B, and C as our columns labels, and then we didn't specify what our index would be, so automatically it's gonna be assigned 0, 1, and 2. Now, as you can see, we have some missing data, right? We have this row and this row that has missing data. So what we can do, one way we can do if we don't want to deal with missing data, is to drop those columns. So what we can do is we can do drop P and A. So that means dropping null values. And so by doing that, we're going to be able to remove any column any row that does not have any data. So let's say that you have thousands and thousands, right? Let's say you have 10,000 different rows with data, and some of those, like maybe like 5 or 10 of them, don't have data, and that would be so insignificant that it's just 5 different rows, 5 samples of your data. That doesn't make any difference. So you can say, well, I'm just gonna drop those columns. I don't want to guess what those values would be, so I'm just gonna drop those rows from the rest of my data. So every row pertains to a specific example of data. And so you can just drop those 5 and it wouldn't make any difference in a big 10,000 rows of data. So that's one way of doing it. Just drop the NAs, the null values. So that's one way. Another way of doing it is to drop them from the column format. So we can say df drop NA, and we can say from the axis equals 1. Remember, axis equals 0 is the row, axis equals 1 is the column. So if I do this, then I'm going to be able to drop any column that has an NaN, a null. Okay, so the only one that doesn't have one is the C. So I'm left with just C. So you can either drop them with the rows or you can drop them from the column. So it's up to you to decide depending on what information you need, right? Let's say that you might have, from each example, some of those columns do not have enough data, so you can say, well, I don't think this is gonna make a big difference, so I'm just gonna drop all the column by itself, so I don't have to deal with it. And there is another way where you can actually have a limitation of how many nulls can you have, how many missing data you can have. So what you can do is you can have a threshold, what we call a threshold, and you can say the threshold to be equal to 2. So if they have more than 2 missing data, you're going to drop them. Like for example, we're going to drop row number 2 because it's missing, it has 2 or more. And so we run this, and now we just have rows that only have missing 1 data. And another way we can do is actually fill in the data. Let's say that I don't want to drop them and I want to fill in the values that have null with a specific value. So here I'm gonna give you an example. I can fill it in with anything I want. I can fill it in with 0. I can fill it up with the mean. So let's say I want to fill it up with fill value, and you can see that any value that is missing will be replaced with this value, this specific value. And I can do it. I can be a little more efficient, and instead of being a value, just a normal value, what I can do is I can do an average of any of the rows. So for example here, so let's say I'm missing this row, this column A is missing the value at index at row 2. So what I can do is I can set up the value for it. I can assign the value by doing I can specifically talk about the column. So I'm talking about column A. I'm gonna fill it with all the values that are not applicable. I'm gonna do value. I'm gonna assign the df the value of A mean value. So what I'm doing is I'm actually finding the mean value of this this column, and I'm going to assign it to anything that is missing a value. So I'm gonna look at column A, and I'm gonna take the mean where it does have a number. I'm gonna take the mean, the average, and I'm gonna fill it up. I'm gonna submit it for all values that do not have a value. So that's a very good way of actually completing. If you don't want to delete your rows, that's a good way of actually